Welcome to Channel Alan Watts Awareness. The shuttle bus wound its way up the cliffside road, headlights sweeping over the Pacific like searching eyes. Inside, executives in tailored suits laughed loud enough to drown out the engine, their voices overlapping, competing, climbing over each other like vines choking the same trellis. Elias sat near the back, hands folded, gaze resting on the dark water outside. The ocean moved with an ancient, indifferent rhythm, a vastness unbothered by quarterly forecasts or keynote speeches. He envied it. Big weekend, huh? A man beside him said, the type who shook hands with both hands, smiled too wide, spoke too quickly. Networking paradise. 200 of the sharpest minds in the industry. Elias nodded politely. So I've heard. The man's grin tightened. You don't sound excited. Before Elias could answer, something strange stirred in the air. A second voice, not spoken by the man, but rising like steam from the space between them. I hope they offer promotions here. I need out of my department. I'm drowning. Please notice me. Elias blinked. The man's lips didn't move. The laugh that followed was loud, confident, wrong. Elias looked back out the window, pulse quickening. It's happening again, he thought. It always happened when he was tired, overwhelmed, or forced into crowds. He could hear people, not their words, but the truth beneath them. The raw, unfiltered inner noise they tried to hide with smiles and small talk. It wasn't magic. It wasn't madness. It was simply too much. The retreat resort rose from the cliffs like a cathedral of glass and steel. Fire pits flickered along the terrace. The night smelled of eucalyptus and expensive cologne. Guests spilled across the check-in lobby, laughing, hugging, exchanging compliments that sounded like rehearsed lines from the same script. Elias walked through the sliding doors, and the world burst open, not with sound, not with movement, but with thoughts. Do they think I'm important enough to remember my name? I hate this dress. I only wore it because my boss is here. If I don't close that deal next week, I'm screwed. Just keep smiling. Don't let them see you're terrified. They came at him like waves, crashing, relentless. The air itself hummed with unspoken desperation. Elias steadied himself against a marble column, exhaling slowly. He reminded himself of what his therapist once said. They're just thoughts, Elias. Think of them like radio static. You can tune out. But this wasn't static. This was suffocation. A woman brushed past him, laughing as she clung to a colleague's arm. Her voice was bubbly, musical, but the echo beneath it trembled. I don't know who I am without other people. Someone please tell me what I'm worth. Elias stepped back. He almost apologized despite her not even noticing him. Across the room, a group formed a perfect networking circle. Postures tall, teeth white, hand gestures wide and rehearsed. Their conversation was polished like marble. But beneath it, did my joke land? Is he judging me? Don't mention the divorce, keep it light. Does anyone care what I'm saying? Please look at me. Please don't look too closely. Every thought overlapped, tangled, spiraling into a single aching truth. Everybody was pretending to be somebody, and the pretending was loud. Elias, he turned, Sarah, his team's project manager, navigated through the crowd with a bright smile. She genuinely liked him. One of the few who didn't drain him completely. You made it, she said, handing him a name badge. You'll be fine tonight. Just breathe. Stick with me if it gets weird. Elias smiled gratefully. But then he heard it. I hope he's okay. He looks pale. I shouldn't have pressured him to come. Her concern felt like a warm blanket. A rare relief. He breathed easier. What do you think of the place? She asked. He looked around. It's beautiful and loud. She laughed. Well, that's what happens when you put CEOs in one room. They start vibrating. Please laugh at the joke. I'm trying to make this easier for you. He did, genuinely. The noise softened for a moment. Then a gong sounded, and the retreat host announced, Welcome, everyone. Drinks and mingling on the terrace before our opening ceremony. The crowd surged toward the glass doors, a tide of suits and heels and practiced enthusiasm. Elias felt his chest tighten. His thoughts blurred. The echoes rose, louder and louder. Notice me. Don't expose me. I need validation. I need to belong. I need to be seen. But I'm afraid of being seen. It all blended into a single phrase pulsing in the air. Fear wearing a smile. Sarah glanced at him. You okay? He forced a breath. I just need a minute. She nodded immediately. Take your time. I'll cover for you. Elias slipped away from the terrace, down a quiet hallway lined with abstract paintings. The silence was thin but real. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. For a brief moment, he let the world fall away. He felt himself soften. The echoes quieted. His heartbeat slowed. And in that stillness, a single thought rose inside him like a whisper of truth. Connection isn't found in crowds. Its fountain presence. He opened his eyes. The night was waiting. The noise was waiting. But so was something else, something deeper, and the retreat had only just begun. If you want part 2, I'll continue with Elias stepping into the terrace again, where he begins to hear not only thoughts, but layers of pretense. A mysterious figure, who is silent both outwardly and inwardly. The break in reality that makes him question who is wearing masks, and who isn't. The hallway's quiet felt too fragile to survive. Like a soap bubble stretching under the weight of approaching footsteps, Elias pushed off the wall, straightened his badge, and walked toward the glowing glass doors that led back to the terrace. The ocean roared below the cliffs, its steady rhythm clashing with the anxious human chatter rising above it. Fire pits flickered under the night sky while servers drifted between executives with trays of champagne. The moment Elias stepped into the crowd, the hidden thoughts beneath their smiles started unraveling in his ears. He heard silent pleas for approval, fears of rejection, and the exhausting pressure to fit in. Every laugh sounded forced, every gesture performed, every conversation heavy with invisible need. Grant, a polished man in a gray suit, greeted him with confidence that crumbled beneath his unspoken insecurity. The hallway's quiet felt too fragile to survive. Like a soap bubble stretching under the weight of approaching footsteps, Elias pushed off the wall, straightened his badge, and walked toward the glowing glass doors that led back to the terrace. The ocean roared below the cliffs, its steady rhythm clashing with the anxious human chatter rising above it. Fire pits flickered under the night sky while servers drifted between executives with trays of champagne. The moment Elias stepped into the crowd, the hidden thoughts beneath their smiles started unraveling in his ears. He heard silent pleas for approval, fears of rejection, and the exhausting pressure to fit in. Every laugh sounded forced, every gesture performed, every conversation heavy with invisible need. Grant, a polished man in a gray suit, greeted him with confidence that crumbled beneath his unspoken insecurity. Elias replied politely, but the echo of everyone's private worries clung to him, like humidity. Unable to bear the noise, he slipped away toward a quiet corner of the terrace. Near a dim fire pit stood a woman who radiated a rare, peaceful stillness. Elias approached her and realized, with shock, that he heard no hidden thoughts from her at all. She introduced herself as Ava, speaking with a clarity that felt real rather than rehearsed. Ava recognized immediately that he didn't want to be seen amid the crowd's frantic performance. When he asked if she heard the same unspoken noise, she answered only with silence that explained everything. A chime from inside signaled the start of the ceremony, but neither of them moved toward the retreat hall. Ava told him the event would be full of rehearsed speeches, empty applause, and imitation connection. She warned that if he stayed too long in the echo chamber, he would lose his own inner voice. With quiet certainty, she stepped down a stone path leading away from the retreat and toward the cliffs. Elias hesitated for only a moment before following her into the dark. The workshop unfolded in a ballroom lit by chandeliers shaped like frozen lightning. Round tables held untouched peppermint candies and branded notebooks that already felt like props. Elias slipped quietly into a seat against the wall, preferring invisibility to the false brightness in the room. Voices rose around him with the kind of enthusiasm used to signal belonging rather than joy. He heard their hidden thoughts, sharp and frantic beneath the polished words. When the facilitator announced a session on authentic connection, he almost laughed at the irony. The warm-up activity revealed more masks than truths, each fun fact exposing a deeper exhaustion he couldn't ignore. And when Mara, trembling beneath her practiced smile, claimed she loved meeting new people, her inner voice confessed she was suffocating. During their paired exercise, Elias listened to Mara's words and her silence with equal attention. She spoke like someone trying to hold herself together with all the wrong tools. Her unspoken thoughts told him she was tired of pretending and tired of the noise everyone else seemed to require. When it was his turn, Elias admitted that silence felt more honest to him than conversation. For the first time that day, Mara's expression matched the truth he sensed within her. After the exercise, she asked him to walk outside, and he agreed without hesitation. On the terrace, she finally admitted that everything inside the ballroom felt too loud, too heavy. In the quiet air beside the lake, both of them realized they were no longer alone in feeling the world so deeply. The hall was alive, strings of amber lights curving across the ceiling like laughter made visible. Glasses clinked, and somewhere near the bar a song from 10 years ago was being shouted, not sung. The bride had lost her shoes, the groom glowed with champagne, and the band's saxophonist had switched to improvising over the DJ's track. Mara moved through the chaos like light through water, fluid and effortless, sparkling. People gravitated toward her laughter, toward the way she made conversation feel like dancing. She knew everyone's story, who was dating, who had quit their job, who was pretending to be fine. For her, gatherings like this weren't noise. They were proof of life. Still, somewhere between the third toast and fifth round of dancing, she realized she couldn't breathe. It wasn't exhaustion exactly, just a sudden weight of sound that made her chest tighten. She smiled her way through another conversation, slipped out between tables, and stepped into the night. The balcony was cool, quiet, and smelled faintly of rain. City lights shimmered below, soft and far away. The muffled pulse of music came through the glass doors, a heartbeat she could ignore for a while. Someone else was already there, sitting near the railing, coat draped over his knees, a cigarette burning low. The glow briefly lit his face, angular, thoughtful, eyes distant. He didn't notice her at first, or pretended not to. "Sorry," Mara said softly, closing the door behind her. "Didn't mean to intrude." "You're not," he replied without turning, his voice low and careful. "Just escaping." She smiled faintly. "You too." He exhaled smoke toward the dark. "Always." She leaned on the railing, watching the clouds drift like slow dancers. The music inside rose and fell, voices blending into one indistinct hum. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Mara said eventually, "Big crowd in there." "Yeah, not your thing?" He shrugged. "I like people, just not when they're all trying to prove they like each other." Mara laughed, a quiet sound that didn't need to reach anyone else. "That's cynical." He glanced at her. "Realistic. You don't seem tired of it, though I love it." She admitted. "The noise, the mess, the energy, it makes me feel connected," she said. He studied her face as if trying to understand a language he'd never learned. "And when it's over?" she asked. "Then it's too quiet, and I hate that," he admitted. He nodded slowly, as though he understood more than she'd said. "I play music," he murmured. "I used to think the notes were what mattered, but the older I get, the more I think it's the silence between them that gives them shape." Mara tilted her head. "So, you like silence?" "I need it," he said simply. "Otherwise I can't hear anything real." For a while, the only sound was the distant pulse of the band, softened by glass and distance. It didn't feel awkward. The quiet seemed to breathe between them, alive in its own way. Mara broke it with a small smile. "What's your name?" "Musician." "Eli." "I'm Mara." "Nice to meet you, Mara," he said. He flicked his cigarette into the night, the ember vanishing like a star going out. "Are you with the bride or the groom?" she asked. "Bride's side, old friend from college. Groom's cousin," he added, "which means I only know about 5 people in there, and 4 are trying to get me to dance." She grinned. "You should, maybe later." "Later never happens," she teased. "You'll sit here all night thinking about silence." "That's the plan. Then I'll dance for both of us," he said, smiling for the first time. When she went back inside, the air swallowed her again, perfume, laughter, bass, but something had changed. The noise didn't feel the same. She caught glimpses of Ellie's quietness in the spaces between songs, the brief hush before applause, the breath people took before laughing. It was strange, she thought, how someone could remind you of silence even in the loudest room. Later, as the night thinned and the crowd blurred into soft motion, she found herself glancing toward the balcony again. It wasn't just curiosity, it was gravity. Something in her wanted to hear what else lived in the spaces between his words. But last night, and this morning, feel like the first real conversation Ivy had in years. Daniel looked down at his notebook. Then it was worth staying up for. They rose and began to walk slowly back toward the main house. The sound of clinking dishes drifted through open windows. Breakfast preparations, life returning. "Do you think we'll see each other again?" Maya asked. Daniel smiled softly. "Maybe, maybe not. But connection doesn't need repetition to be real. Sometimes it's enough that 2 waves met for a moment and recognized the ocean in each other." Maya's eyes glimmered with something like peace. "Then I'm glad we met," he nodded. "So am I." And as they reached the garden steps, she paused to look back at the pond, now still again, perfectly still. In that silence, she understood something she had never felt before, that the quiet wasn't empty. It was alive. The world itself was music. She just had to stop talking long enough to hear it. Weeks had passed since the wedding. The city hummed with its usual rhythm. Traffic, conversations, notifications, deadlines. The world felt impossibly loud compared to the quiet vineyard. Yet Maya no longer flinched at the noise. She walked to a cafe one Tuesday morning. The streets crowded, people brushing past like waves on a storm-tossed sea. She carried no agenda, no performance, no need to be seen. The clamor around her didn't demand anything. It simply existed, as she now knew everything did. Inside the cafe, she ordered tea and found a small corner by the window. Sunlight spilled across the tabletop, illuminating the steam from her cup. She watched the people, a mother coaxing a toddler to sit, a businessman tapping impatiently on his laptop, a young couple whispering across the table. She noticed their laughter, their pauses, their subtle gestures. Every movement had rhythm, every word carried silence in its shadow, and in that awareness, she felt a smile unfold within her. Across the street, unnoticed, someone entered the cafe, tall, quiet, carrying a notebook. His eyes scanned the room briefly before resting on a corner of soft sunlight. He smiled faintly when he saw her, though he didn't approach. Instead, he sat at a table nearby, opening his notebook and beginning to play the music he had composed in memory of their night on the balcony. The melody was gentle, with pauses that let the air itself vibrate. It rose and fell like the ocean, like a conversation without words. Maya closed her eyes and listened. The room still moved around her. People spoke, dishes clinked, music from the cafe's small speaker filled the background. Yet within it, she could hear the spaces between, the subtle currents of life, the rhythm that had always existed but that she had never truly noticed. Her mind drifted back to the balcony at the wedding, the hush of the night, the soft hum of shared presence, the pond shimmering in the early dawn. She remembered Ellie's words, the way he had described the ocean beneath the waves. She realized now that the connection they shared wasn't dependent on proximity or repetition. It was already everywhere, waiting to be perceived. She took a sip of tea and let the warmth move through her. Life didn't feel like a performance anymore. Noise didn't feel like pressure. Each moment, whether loud or silent, was part of the same melody, a single energy playing different tunes. The melody from the notebook reached its final note, a long pause, a breath, a silence that sang louder than any chord. Maya opened her eyes and saw Eli watching her from across the room. Just for a moment, he nodded, acknowledging the unspoken recognition between them. No words were needed. She returned the nod, feeling it resonate through her chest. The world outside remained the same, chaotic, busy, imperfect, yet it no longer felt separate from her. She was not merely part of it, she was it. And in that realization, the music between became clear. The pause, the breath, the space where energy flowed freely, where two beings could meet without touching, where a melody could play itself, in silence. Maya left the cafe soon after, stepping into the street with the same quiet awareness she had discovered on the balcony. Every step was a rhythm, every interaction a note in the infinite symphony of life. People brushed past her. The city roared. She smiled, not in performance, but in presence. The music between, she understood, had never been in the wedding, never in the balcony, never even in Eli. It had always been within her, and within everything. As she walked, the world around her whispered its constant, eternal melody, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone in it.